Oh man, the hashtag Beck believers are winning right now. We're up big time. Because I the
Carson Beck,
discourse about football,
Dolphins quarterback, Miami Hurricanes quarterback, former Georgia
maybe the
quarterback.
Dolphins quarterback in the future. Who knows?
Yeah, maybe the Dolphins quarterback. I know, right? Seriously, he's actually a decent offense fit for Shanahan guys. Yeah, actually. So yeah, keep going.
The discourse, and I think you can tell by like the Caleb Williams discussions this week when the Bears defense gave up 9 yards per play when our first down is only 10. That we've got a little bit too dialed in on just talking about quarterbacks. And I thought that Carson Beck season last year at Georgia was a big example of that, where, dude, you're watching these games. I understand if you're not a Georgia Bulldog fan, probably not watching every Georgia game. And you can kind of just get wrapped up in whatever you see on social media. But like, he wasn't nearly as bad as people had like written him out to be last year. And was honestly the reason why they won a good chunk of games in the back half of the season and ultimately dragged into the playoffs before he got hurt. And they had to put Gunnar Stockton in the game in the second half. But, they had, you were talking about, we've all said, one of the worst drops that any PFF or any service like that has charted last year in terms of wide receivers. They couldn't run the ball. They couldn't pass protect. And even then, like, there's still times where he's giving you chances to kind of have productive offenses and get the ball down the field. I really think the only thing we learned about Carson Beck last year is that he's not like a top 5 pick or maybe even like a top 20 pick, which is ultimately fine. That can still get you pretty far in college football. But it was kind of wild to see like how many people were talking about preseason first team All-American quarterback, like Heisman contender coming to the season last year, as someone who's just like some scrub and laughing at Miami for resigning this guy. And then, because I thought the whole point was if you can get him back into a good ecosystem, the year before in 2023, after that season, we were talking about him as like a top 15 pick, So like that, it's not totally dissipated. Like maybe that era of Carson Beck's life is over, like him being viewed in that capacity. But like at this rate, I would be pretty stunned if he didn't end up as a top 100 pick if he keeps performing this way. Because it's not just like you're putting up better production. Like some of the throws down the field he's making are absolutely incredible, especially in that game they played last week. So I'm happy for him because I thought that the heat got turned up way too high on him, but he was one of the big reasons why they even made the playoff in the first place. Because people forget that Georgia defense gave up 31 points to goddamn Mississippi State last year, and Carson had to drag them across the finish line. He had to drag them across the finish line against Georgia Tech and Tennessee. But you watch him throw a couple of interceptions on Twitter, and he's the worst quarterback you've ever seen. It's ridiculous, man. Right. It's ridiculous.
And the Georgia offensive line was never going in the right direction ever.
No, never.
And it's the same old line coach this year, and it looks exactly the same. Yeah, they had 3 guys drafted, and I would say one of them's for sure playing well in New England, and the other one in Detroit's playing like starter quality. So, like those guys are also figured it out pretty quickly when they got out of Georgia, got out of Athens. There's something where people can't handle just okay. Netflix took away their rating system and just made it thumbs up, thumbs down because they realized that's all people rate things is 5 or 0s or 5 or 1s. Like people can't handle 3s. They just can't handle the middle ground. When a guy is, and that's, shoot, you just mentioned Caleb. That was Caleb's week 1. You look back at it and you're like, oh, this was like a fine starting game. Like, and people acted like it was the worst thing they've ever seen. I was like, did you watch the other side of the ball? In those games? That's the worst thing I've ever seen. There's a movie Waterworld that was like that, where it was the most expensive movie ever, and it was supposed to be this big failure, all this stuff, and it was just okay. And I think people just didn't know how to handle that either. It wasn't like this big bomb. It's like just fine, Mad Max on water. The other thing in that game too, just before we kind of move on, was unless you want to keep ranting, because that was pretty fun for me to listen to. Because I agree. I think Carson Beck, he looks like a day 2. He looks like a round 3 guy right now. I mean, just through 2 games. I haven't watched them on film. I'll admit that, but just off 2 TV copies I've watched, or 2 games on TV I watched. He looks just how I figured how he looked last year, which was until the last year kind of happened.
If Tyler Shuck can go top 40, anything can happen at this point. I feel like because because that was the profile of someone who. It never works. Even if you like to tape like the profiles.
Went round 3. Right. I mean, there's a lot of them. There's a
Bryce
lot of
Young went first overall. I mean,
who'd the Vikings draft that Mike Zimmer hated from A&M?
Sean Mannion. Kellen Mond.
Yeah,
Kellen Mond.
Kellen Mond. He went round 3.
Him. Yeah,
hated him. Why don't you give him a? What did they say? Why don't you give him a shot? He said, because I watch him practice every day.
Watch him practice every day. I do think people forget that sometimes when they're like, "Why aren't my favorite players in the game?" It's like, there's 6 days in between the last time you saw them.
Why is this 5-star not playing
every day?
I bet you they want him on the field. So there's probably a reason why. I know. There's some other fun matchups in that game. Austin Barber's a tackle for Florida. That's good. He's going against Ruben Bain, edge player for Miami, who I think he was 16th on my preseason board. I compared him to Brandon Graham.
That's a good one. I also think this is going to be the season debut for Florida defensive lineman Caleb Banks, who's a pretty highly rated guy coming into the year.
The Florida D-line's got a couple guys. They got Tyreek Saab.
That'd be fun.
Yeah, no. Oh, and then the tackle for Miami, Francis. I think he's a guard, but he's another good.
Yes.
Francis Magalaga. That's a terrible. That is not what his last name.
Yeah, I was about to say we got to learn that last name. I know exactly who you're talking about.
I know, but he's like a first-round prospect. He's a good prospect. I'm blanking on his name right now. Sorry.
Yeah.
All right, real quick, I wanted to squeeze this one in because I haven't mentioned him on Football 301. I don't think, other maybe it's something I said under my breath or something like that. Yeah. This was my QB1 in the non-Arch Manning category, but so that's kind of looks like it's a year away anyway. So this is my QB1 from May going into the season. And that's Indiana quarterback Fernando Mendoza, who had some, I would say, solid performances against kind of the lesser, I almost said something bad there, some lesser colleges like Old Dominion and everything. They played Indiana State last week. He has 6 total touchdowns. He only throws 1 incompletion in the first half. And I was like, okay, it's nice to see some routes on air and what you can do when you kind of just have your way. Big, he's built a lot like Matt Ryan. And that's the guy that comes to mind for me. Matt had more of a whippy throwing motion, but as far as athleticism, size, willingness to throw over the middle, and I would even say arm strength, very comparable to me. Others have compared him to Jared Goff, and he played at Cal last year. So I was like, I kind of wanted to do a different school, for that and everything. Matt obviously is the high end comparison for that, but just a solid scrambler and athlete, can whip the ball, understands kind of football. I think his football IQ is pretty good. He's tough as all get out, which is another comparison to Goff and Ryan. Can take hard coaching as well. And I just really like him. He's my QB1. He's had some nice performances so far. Still, the couple things where, he's going to try some stuff. He'll get caught trying some stuff. And I do think that there's times where last year he was taking a lot of sacks. I attributed that mostly to the offensive line, the offensive system at Cal. But this year, not as a lot of sacks, but they haven't played anybody yet. So this week, playing Illinois, going to be an awesome game, ranked versus ranked. And then I think the next 2 weeks, they play Iowa and then Oregon. So some good tests coming up for Mendoza that can really kind of launch him. And, people like him. Dane Brugler, who I worked with at The Athletic, had him as 20th, I think, on his big board as well. I really trust Dane. So it wasn't me just getting ahead of myself, which I have been known to do. Hello, O'Reilly Leonard. But no, it's good to see. So no, but it's Mendoza has had some nice performances. I think this is going to be a really, really fun test going against my old head coach, Brett Bielema, and my old teammate, Aaron Henry. He's the defense coordinator.
Oh, hell yeah.
Hank might be a head coach soon.
Oh,
Aaron's awesome.
Yeah,
I actually got to introduce you to Aaron. Yeah.
He's
awesome.
It's funny. He's been the defensive coordinator I've been chasing for my my CFB dynasty because he's got good perks.
I get it.
Game's got good perks. Yeah, but this will actually be the first time I've seen This is actually the first time I've seen Mendoza play ever. Honestly,
okay.
The Cal games last year. I'm just so late.
Not worthy of watching.
It's on so late.
Other than Miami game,
Actually, no. That was the one game I did see the Miami game. I did watch that one. But other than that, I've only seen him play one time. And this year, man, dude, Kurt Signetti, he's out here talking crap about we scheduled all these soft guys in the summer. Like, okay, but don't really want to watch that. Why do college football teams in general? Why do we got to start this thing where you play like Illinois State and Indiana State 3 games in a row to start the season? Come on, I know, but you can have one game. 3
or UCLA can host New Mexico and get absolutely blown out of the water at home.
Dude, Nico messed up. Nico messed up.
I don't know if Nico had a lot of choices unless he wanted to drop down, maybe a conference or so.
Because look, I'll tell you what, after watching that Georgia Tennessee game, Aguilar, his replacement, he ain't good either. So he could have stayed there and kept his job, man. That's crazy.
Competed. Yeah. I also my last aside here. I mentioned Cal quarterbacks. Have you watched the freshman? The freshman Cal quarterback.
Jaron. Yes. That was about to say.
Want to know how much I like him?
Cal games this year. I have stayed up this year.
Okay,
he's so good.
So this guy, this is how good he is. Anyone that's listened to me on any show ever, I'm very bad with names. I looked up his name pronunciation because I think this guy he's the leader in the clubhouse to be the number one pick in 2028. True freshman from Hawaii at Cal, big, tall lefty, was going to go to Oregon or went to Oregon, I think transferred after like a week or something like that.
It was, I remember the story. He committed to Cal and then went to, he was about to commit to Oregon because they offered him back, right? And right before he was about to commit to Oregon, he was like, this don't feel right. I felt at home at Cal, so I'm going to go back to Cal, and stayed there. And now he is absolutely crushing it.
He saw Mendoza transferred, and he was like, yeah, I'm definitely going to Cal now.
I was going to start over there.
He saw Dante Moore, and he was like, yeah, I'm definitely going to Cal now. Dante Moore, also another quarterback to keep an eye on at Oregon. He's looking really good, too. But all right, Jaron Keave Sangapulu-Tele. Yes. Or, as I'll be calling him for the next 3 years, JKS. That's what I'm going to be calling him for the next 3 years. I'm sorry, Jared. No, but anybody who want to watch some late night Cal, this dude can spin it. I was at the wedding in Minnesota last weekend, and they played, I think it was the wedding after party. It was a big blur. When Cal and Minnesota were playing. And the father of the bride was like, why are we losing to Cal? I was like, oh, no, watch this quarterback. And then literally, as I said that, he just chucks one like 30 yards, just perfect ball. I was like, that's why you guys are listening right now. It's just that guy.
Because they got Hawaiian Big Ben, buddy. I don't know what to tell you.
They do. Whew. What's with all the Hawaiian lefties? Tua?
I don't know, but this dude,
JKS, Dylan Gabriel.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, he's all 6'3", 220. No, I'm enamored with him. He's so much fun. He just chucks that thing. So, yeah, make sure you check out some Cal as well. Yeah, prospects to pros. That was fun.
That's right.